Today's topic is innovation and the Ivory Tower, why startup ecosystems thrive with help from higher education. We have an amazing array of panelists here from a lot of different front range universities and institutions. And we've actually become our own sort of council in the last year, organically formed because I should probably be holding this closer. This microphone is only connected to the camera, so it doesn't produce any sound for you. It's just so we get good audio. So we are part of what we're calling the Colorado University Innovation Council. And we came together because we realized a lot of universities in Colorado are trying to do innovation and are thinking about innovation entrepreneurship. But how are we learning, or what pain points are we running into, and what are the things that we should be sharing amongst our institutions? And so those of us that are sort of the point people came together and started talking, and it's become a really beneficial kind of working group for us, and peer network, and then a lot of good things are coming out of it, and we're just in like the first year of it. So I will let people do an intro in a moment, but I wanted to kick off a little bit of why do universities even matter for startup ecosystems, because I just started at CU Boulder 2 years ago, and this is my second Boulder Startup Week. And I felt like university representation was really missing. It was underrepresented, considering the size of the institution in our backyard in Boulder. And I was curious about that. Part of my role is to be involved in the startup community. And so obviously through that collaboration, I was like, let's get more energy. We need to collapse the campus and the community. And that goes for all of us. We're all trying to work with our communities. So here's just a couple of fun stats to kind of inform you why it matters. The Kauffman report, the Kauffman Foundation researches entrepreneurship. And in one of their reports, they quoted Paul Graham, who's the founder of Y Combinator. He said there are no tech hubs without first-rate universities. That really matters. So Silicon Valley really has a strong advantage because of Stanford University. I think people would say that too about Boston and what's happening with Cambridge and Harvard and MIT. And then in the Kauffman Index of Entrepreneurship from 2016, based on their metrics, they show that Colorado is the 6th in the United States in terms of startup density. So we know we're ranking really strong across the country. But our startup density per capita is really high, and Boulder being number 1 in high tech, and 4 of the top 10 spots are other Colorado cities, Denver's included, Fort Collins included. So we know we're really pushing in terms of our per capita density. It's amazing. But there's 2 things about innovation that matter. It's the type of innovation and the rate of innovation. So a lot of big cities and even suburbs can produce a lot of innovation, but the most unconventional innovations are coming from places like startups and university labs. So we are creating that density of knowledge and talent in a university ecosystem that then pushes into the community and helps create that fantastic, really radical innovation that's so desirable. So that's why we matter so much in this conversation. And I think you're going to be fascinated by what we talk about today, and maybe we can learn more together. So without more further ado, I'd like each panelist to introduce themselves, and they're each going to share a couple highlights of the top things they really want you to know are happening in their world right now.
Hi, I am Sara Engel. I'm the Assistant Director of the Jake Jabs Center for Entrepreneurship. We are housed at CU Denver in the Business School. CU Denver also has some other innovation hubs like the Comcast Media and Tech Center and InWorks. Media and Tech is pretty self-explanatory. InWorks is a human design focus center for Denver and Anschutz. So those are some highlights for the CU Denver campus specifically. Some other things with our programs, I guess I want to kind of talk about our business competition that we have. It used to be closed to the campus. It's now a state of Colorado competition. It's for higher ed, any higher ed institutions. That includes community colleges and four-year institutions. It could be a PhD student as well. You just need one person on the team. So we have worked the last couple of years to completely redesign that competition. It's now called The Climb, Jake Jabs Business Competition. And it's definitely seen some successes just in the last couple of years from our changes. Oh, he's got mic up.
We're mic'd, hopefully. Let's get the rest of us. My name's Taylor Kendall, and I come at this from kind of more of a practitioner side of things. Have done instructional design work for a long time. on the Auraria campus, mostly at MSU Denver, and also teach in the School of Ed at CU Denver. And I was just kind of pulled into this panel late, but I like it because I think I do represent a little different flavor in that I don't sort of directly work with a group that offers any sort of competition, or what I'm doing at MSU Denver really and at the campus of Auraria broadly is to really just try to break down as many walls as possible and connect to good things happening across all three of those institutions, along with regionally other things going on across Colorado. So a few of those would be things that come to mind are we have a broad OER, Open Educational Resource Initiative, and a fair amount of money just got funneled into the state. And I think we will be the first of its kind at Auraria to offer a sort of broad initiative built towards lowering costs to students and hopefully get some of that money funneled into the Auraria Library, which is this nice central hub. There's very few places in the country that exist that have that sort of structure. So that's one piece. And then also an event, Teaching and Learning with Technology Symposium, that we've sort of totally blown up. And it's now this regional event where folks just come and think through big ideas and have some examples of folks that have thought about ideas there and then spawned off and kind of got tied into this event or Startup Week in EDU or even Denver Startup Week, and have pushed those ideas out of that event further. And really my big focus is sort of equity and assuring that students that are tied into this sort of thinking in space are sort of equally accepted and equal opportunity is sort of offered across the board with both students and faculty that get tied into projects. So yeah, I'll stop there, but I think the practitionership shouldn't get lost as we think through some of these big events.
Thanks, Taylor. I'm Ken Sagendorf. I direct the Innovation Center in the Anderson College of Business at Regis University. So I am, Regis is a Jesuit Catholic university that's been relatively quiet about itself on the landscape. And our business school is fairly new, and I am one of three triple bottom line centers that get started all at the same time. So I have colleagues that run a sustainability center and a workforce development center. Planet, people, innovation is the prosperity part of that triple bottom line. I too have a competition just like Sara does at CU Denver. Mine is the Regis Innovation Challenge. Mine is open to the community. The only rules are that you must have one current student on the team. We might be able to help you with that. If not, you might need to talk to our students. That's the thing we want to do. We launched this year with that competition, and it went fairly well. The other thing that I will mention that I think is one of our successes that we are putting in place right now is, my pitch to everybody would be you'd never hire a scientist if they never spent time in a science lab in college. You'd never go to a hospital if the nurse was never in a clinical setting. Why would you hire somebody into a business that's never actually been in a business? So running what I call business laboratories, actively run student businesses on our campus. And that's a partnership in the making.
Hi there, my name is Nina Sharma. I'm the Managing Director at Project Excite at the University of Denver. Project Excite is an acronym in itself. The X stands for cross-disciplinary, ITE is innovation tech, and entrepreneurship. Our program's about 2.5 years old. We have a pitch competition as well, except we all do. We work at entrepreneurship. That's the thing, right? There's accelerators, incubators,
necessary
pitch competitions.
thing. That's
We've all got them. So the pitch competition that we actually run is the official Denver Startup Week pitch competition. So it's the rival, right? But you're all welcome to apply to it. We've been running it. We've done it for 2 years, so this will be our third year. We had like 140 applicants from across the state apply last year, which is great. So that's really our big pitch competition. So it's not just for students. We're putting students right up there against entrepreneurs in the community, and I think that's something that we've been trying to do in all of our programming, is to really expose students to the community and vice versa. Our flagship program, our soon-to-be flagship program, is an accelerator for student-led ventures. We piloted it last summer with 2 ventures, and we have 9 in it this summer. So that's 9 different student-led companies. It's 27 students who are all trying to make a go of it. One of them just got their first round of angel funding, which is super exciting for us. It's a great story to tell eventually. Those are some of our big things. But we focus a lot on our 3 buckets, our 3 audiences are community, faculty, and students. So anything we do has to really deeply connect to 2 of those audiences in order for us to go ahead and do it. We just want to make sure that we're not ever siloed, that we're always touching more than one group at a time.
All right, I'm Werner Core. I'm the new director of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Colorado School of Mines, an institution not necessarily noted for its entrepreneurial character, but we're going to change that. So we started the center about 9 months ago, and our goal is really twofold. One is primarily to give because we're 85% engineers at Mines, we want to train every engineer with at least a basic understanding of entrepreneurial thinking, give them the mindset so that they can communicate the value of the work that they're doing, and also communicate with potential users and customers and understand those concepts. So that's really the primary mission. The secondary mission is actually to help form startups based on university technologies or affiliated technologies that are developed by our students or faculty. So of course we have an innovation competition as well. It's called Hack Minds. We've just rebranded, and we're doing a couple things a little differently now that I'm here. One, we're trying to reach out more to the community. So we've got a number of initiatives that are community based. So our next, for example, our next innovation competition is actually going to be in Silverton. So we're working with the Mountain Studies Institute to address issues on the Western Slope. So we're going to bus our students out there, and they're going to do a reverse pitch. So they'll pitch their problems to our students, and then we'll have a competition based on that. And then the other one is we're actually opening in a week, is the Da Vinci Machines exhibition, which has been here in Denver a couple times. We're actually sponsoring them to come back. They'll be opening in the Pavilions Mall. It's an exhibition of about 60 replicas of Da Vinci's machines from his codices, and we'll be hosting an innovation center inside that as well. So we'll have 3D printers and classes on innovation, mainly targeted at the junior and senior high school market.
Thanks. I didn't finish my whole intro, so I'll do that now. So I'm Sara Beth Burke. I'm the director of the Innovation Entrepreneurship Initiative at CU Boulder. And this is a relatively new initiative. I think if you ask most of us how recent our work is, it's in the last couple years. There's a theme. And like you heard, this work is also serving the entire campus for CU Boulder. The audiences we focus on are students, staff, faculty, and the community, so it's for all tiers. And we are not positioned in any college or department. I'm actually in the Research and Innovation Office, which enables me to be very flexible and mobile and work with like way too many stakeholders and collaborators, but that's what we need to do. Like you heard this other theme, we are focused on mindsets. This is about building that entrepreneurial thinking, habits, risk-taking, diverse collaborations, failing fast. That really works for all disciplines, but we're not sort of celebrating and inoculating all of our stakeholders in that yet. So we're working towards that through experiences. My job is to provide those opportunities and look for gaps. We also have a competition. Ours is called the New Venture Challenge. It's been around for 10 years, and it is really based on anyone with a Buff 1 card, but we encourage a lot of the community to mentor and get involved in various ways. A couple other highlights that we offer are Hack CU is our large student group that runs a massive, almost 600-person hackathon each year on campus, so it's blowing up. We also have Startups to Students, which is a special kind of job matching where we ask startups from the community to come in and meet with students in sort of this like open pitch format. So we're really trying to drive that talent match right there. And then lastly, Silicon Flatirons, if you haven't heard of that, is out of the law school, interestingly, but they really target conversations around being entrepreneurial and taking chances in law and tech and policy. And they've really kind of become a node within the Boulder community, and it's tied to the university. And they're driving some great work through Colorado called Startup Colorado, bringing entrepreneurship into rural communities and supporting that throughout the state. So that's sort of a bigger endeavor with the state of Colorado, but really exciting work. So I'll end there. Just to give the audience a quick snapshot, can you each say how large your institution is by size of student body? Is that okay? So we're at like the 31,000 mark right now at CU Boulder.
So CU Denver is about 15, 16. I think Auraria campus as a whole is 45,000.
Yeah, I usually throw out the number just 50,000, which makes it like the largest campus in the country if you take all three schools combined. But yeah, I mean, there are 50,000, 50,000 students at any time on a single campus.
What are the three schools that are combined in that?
MSU Denver, CU Denver, and then Community College of Denver.
Just
Yep.
helping make sure. Okay.
Yep.
That's a massive 50,000 students.
It is.
That is cool.
Regis is about 11,000, a pittance for the 50.
We're 12,000, so we're bigger than Regis.
Thanks a lot, Nina.
I beat y'all, we're only at 6,000.
That's considerable if you think of the force of just student energy that we're all helping to create. So we wanted to kick off with stories first because we think it's really important to just kind of hear some real ways that we're making impact and that people are living the work that we're talking about. And then we want to break the conversation to two parts. First, sort of the pain points and the point of view from startups when we hear people in the community coming to us and asking us questions. We wanted to address the most common questions we get from the community. And then we want to share some of our point of view and the pain points we're feeling right now. And then we'll open this to Q&A. If you have questions at any time, please interrupt us. So with that note, what are some of the ways that you feel we should share? Like, what are the top stories we've encountered recently that are really important for the community to hear?
For the council or for the individual?
The stories that we've talked about in terms of like how we're really driving this work.
Do you want me to start with Norma?
Go for
Just
it.
because it's a really recent
It's a really good one.
It's a really good one. So a couple, let's see, back in February, maybe it was January, there was a Startup Weekend Women in Denver. It was hosted at the Commons on Champa. And there was one of our students, who's a junior, she actually has a startup, and she's actually in the accelerator we're running this summer, called Booby Butter, which is a women's breast health subscription box and lotion, and it's a really cool product. And she wanted to come and pitch that, but the rule about startup weekends is it has to be a new idea. It can't actually be a product or service that you've already built and are already exploring, or it can't be an actual functional startup. So she's like, all right, well, I've had this other idea. It's kind of tied to it, but it's a different company. So she pitched this idea, and it's now called Norma. And it's a mobile app to help women, actually to help anybody, because men get breast disease as well. So it's a reminder for when to do a self-check, how to do a self-check, what you're looking for, and then can connect you to resources in the community. So she pitched this idea at Startup Weekend Women, got a team together, and then the way Startup Weekends work, if you guys aren't familiar with this, people pick which pitch they liked the best, join that team, and then for 54 hours work together to actually build out a company, and then on Sunday they get to pitch out. So this company, it was led by a DU student. There were 2 DU students on it, and then there was 1 CU student on it, right? And then another 2 people from the community. And they worked on this, and they built out a prototype over the weekend, and then they pitched, and they won. And then because they won Startup Weekend Women, there was a global Startup Weekend Women competition in Paris. So they got sent to Paris to pitch, and they came in 3rd of 27 companies worldwide, which was insane. They're like 20 years old, and they're killing it. They've also had 1,000,001 problems since then. Like, they've gone through every startup pain you can have in a really, really short period of time. The founders have fought. They've changed the mission. They've changed the name. They've fought over who owns social media. Like, it's this amazing, like, they're taking Fail Fast to a whole new level. The company is still running. They have excellent social media feeds. But I think it's so interesting that they are this cross-institutional team that is really learning on the fly.
Yeah, so they met at a Techstars Startup Weekend. Then, like, I think it was 6 weeks later, came and pitched that idea in the tech track of the new Venture Challenge at CU Boulder because one of the students was a CU student. So now they're on our campus. Well, they made it to the finals in the IT track. They maybe came in 3rd, and they were an audience choice favorite that we brought back to the championships, and then they won the audience choice award at the championships. So they've gotten money from us, money from Techstars Startup Weekend, probably money from some other sources,
Yeah.
and they're going to DU this summer to do a summer accelerator. So you can just see how we are all starting to interconnect in really beautiful ways, taking advantage of things from Techstars, the universities, just
And they've got faculty members from both schools, as well as leadership from Techstars and from the community, all sort of diving in to help them succeed. It's kind of this amazing little startup story.
Okay. So one or two more fun little stories like that. Sarah, I think you had one. Yeah.
So it's one of our pride stories at the center. When the Center for Entrepreneurship at CU Denver started, it was the Bard Center. It was primarily graduate in the beginning. It wasn't until the more recent years that we started to build out our undergraduate program. So he was an alumnus of Boulder. Okay. He did his undergrad in Boulder, moved back to the East Coast, had kind of this AV media startup business that he did, and he thought, this really isn't sustainable. Moved to Denver, and he explored our certificate program as a non-degree student. So he explored this program, and he picked classes and electives that he knew he needed to build his knowledge a little more in those areas. And then he took the capstone, which is a business planning class. This was probably about 2010 when he did this. So he took the business plan class, and he used that to really kind of pilot and shape up his new business idea, which was a bagel shop. It was called Empire Bagels, and he wound up making it into the finals of the competition. A judge from the competition was Chris Onan with Galvanize, and he worked it out so that Josh Pollock could take Empire Bagels and use the kitchen at Galvanize and do catering orders and just daily sales from the Gather kitchen. So for a few years, he started to build up his funding and kind of shape up what he really wanted to do with his business. It's now Rosenberg Bagels and Delicatessen. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but he has the best bagels. If you're from New York or New Jersey and you're looking for those bagels, Rosenberg's is the place to do. They actually modify the water to mimic New York City.
Actually, Jersey. He's from Bergen County, New Jersey.
Yeah, he's Jersey. Yeah, so they're fantastic bagels. Josh is an amazing person. He's focused on giving back to the community. But it's not just Rosenberg Bagels and Delicatessen. He's actually turned this into a restaurant group. So it's 2 different locations for Rosenberg Bagels and Delicatessen. Rosenberg's Kosher, which is a kosher shop. And then with his sister, he's opening up Lou's Italian, which is going to do the same thing with their bread. All of the bread is going to mimic the New Jersey water. Wow.
How do you make water like Jersey City water and not wonderful Rocky Mountain water?
He's from Hillsdale, New Jersey. Bergen County is a reason they call it the Garden State.
Exactly, yeah. So it affects, you find out that anytime you're using yeast, which is, I guess, Colorado's water is perfect for brewing. So anytime you're using yeast in a product, any possible thing can change the outcome. So the best bagels come from New Jersey. So he studied the water. He's got a great story. But yeah, he was a Boulder undergrad, went back home to the East Coast, came back to Denver. He was a non-degree student for us.
So we could probably go on and on with stories, but I'm going to move us forward. I think you could just get the picture. Like, we have so much to be proud of, and it just continues. And now that we are focused and we're actually employed to do this work on our campuses, I think you're just going to hear so much more. So let's put ourselves in your shoes. You hopefully are from the startup community, and you are hyper-focused, like you should be, laser-focused on your startup. And you're like, why do I even care about the universities? What do you do for me? That's sort of like that first pain point question we hear from startups. Like, you're doing your thing, we're doing our thing, we don't see a need for you. So when you hear that from a startup, what are some of the resources or the reasons why startups need a university? What do you provide? Give some examples.
I can start. I think one of the things that has been really underutilized is the Alumni Network. Mm-hmm. And that's where I really started concentrating at the very beginning and looking for our alumni that are interested in giving back. And I was overwhelmed. I think I approached about 200 people in the first year, and within, I think, 2 months, I had 160 connect with me. Mm-hmm. And of those, probably half volunteered to act as mentors with me. So that was really a wonderful outcome, and it's a great opportunity both for the students and for the alumni because they really love working with the students, and it gives the students so much breadth that they wouldn't have the access to otherwise.
Yeah, I can add on to that as well. We just launched a mentoring program at DU. Turns out the entire university has been trying to figure out or crack this mentoring nut. They know that students need mentors. They know there's alumni and people in the community who want to mentor, but they can't actually figure out how we connect A to B in a really meaningful way that's also sustainable and a good use of everybody's time. So I literally just sent out an email saying, we're looking for mentors. Here's 4 different ways you can mentor. And we had within like a week 100 people write back and say, awesome, we want to mentor, which is great for a small program and an email list that isn't that huge. Having 100 people say, yep, we really want to engage. And a third of those people said, yeah, we want to mentor one startup specifically for an entire year. Like we are willing to dedicate that much time, which is awesome. We've then had students come to us and say, we want to build out this platform for you. Will you pay us to do it? So yes, we'll pay us. We're going to have to build out this platform anyway. Mm-hmm. So what a great way to fund a student startup and be their pilot program to build out a prototype that they can then replicate and iterate off of. And now the university is figuring out, okay, can we take that pilot program and scale it for the entire university? Yep. But back to your original question, we want this platform not to just be for students, but for anybody. If they're like, I need a mentor in the startup network. Sure. Oh, well, DU's got that mentoring platform. I can go there and find the right mentor who has the right skill set and we'll make that match. So I think the connection to community, connection to students and talent and all of that is really what we can provide.
The mentor point, I think we could even dig into further. Mm-hmm. There's a lot on that part. There's a hand. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to go along the lines of something you mentioned about working with the students on a solution. So I go to UNC Chapel Hill. I just graduated. Very involved with the startup community. I myself have one. And what I found, though, there is that most of the students who have startups have solutions that are oriented around students or university problems because those are the problems we know and understand. But working with the universities themselves is a total hassle because it's super bureaucratic. So what sorts of things do you do to try to actually work with student startups? Because I think that could really get a lot more students actually starting up, feeling like there's a little less risk there.
Having the university kind of be the pilot program for students or be the prototyping partner. I love it. That's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to figure out what are the pools of money that we have, and we have a super limited budget, but with it, how can we directly support student startups, and what is it if it's not just an accelerator? How can we take that idea? Because so many, I think we can probably all agree on this, so many students have that idea, but they don't actually know where to go to build it out. Yeah. And so it never gets built out. Yeah. And that entrepreneurial spirit, that's the thing. Just get into the habit of talking about it and build a place where people can come and test things out.
Right. So that just happens on our campus just last week. CU Denver did graduation. Finals was last week. Graduation was this weekend. So the senior engineering teams, they all have to do a capstone project. And what I don't think that a lot of those students realize is that the projects they just worked on for the previous year are actually businesses. And they've created a physical product for a project without realizing that it's a business. And sometimes it's trying to find the right meld between the student population or the student in the community so that those engineers, in a sense, realize, I just made a product that could be huge. It could be a business. It's helping them kind of see it and highlight that. That's one of the things I don't think they realize it sometimes.
One thing I think is undervalued by getting tied into a university is the capacity for that space to generate empathy and a different perspective on what you're doing. And you have students that are, taking 4 or 5 different classes. There's a lot of ideas crossing and colliding. I think and it sounds super cliche to be like, it's the networking effect, but that shit's real. That's real. I don't know. Can I say that? Yeah. But that shit's real when you get in that space. Universities are connected to the state and globally and nationally to other groups and other, I think getting in, we often hit points, and I've done this trying to dig into certain pockets of where I can avoid the bureaucratic red tape. But I think we hit points and just stop because we're like, oh, the institution's just going to put up a wall here. But know that every institution, and I think this represents, or hopefully this group represents, every institution has folks that want to get around that and like will help find the right avenue to be like, no, we're going to get you into that class to do a presentation. They're going to actually help provide feedback on whatever your startup is. So know that the value of the empathy that can come out of getting tied into a university is worth the fight to get past the initial red tape that you're inevitably always going to hit.
And I'll just add on, I think it's all of our jobs, because I get asked a ton of questions by students, but my job is to help figure out how to break the rules and how to navigate the systems and the bureaucracy. So if students are trying to do something in the university context, we are probably the best point people to say, okay, here's the right way to go about it, and here's the way probably you like won't be successful if you do it, but we're their champions, helping them move forward and take those risks. And if they succeed, great, it's going to benefit us, hopefully. Other things, let's just focus on resources that we offer to startups before we say what we need from startups. So did you want to add something?
I was
Yeah.
just going to say, one of the things, and I'm sure this is true for all the universities, we work with external incubators and accelerators like Innosphere, and in Golden we have a small one called Traxion. They've been so supportive of the student teams, you know, and it gives them a different perspective other than an academic perspective. So, and I find that so important to get that information to the students. So being able to make that connection is critical.
I think the other thing I'd mention is that, yes, we have 12,000 students on campus. We also have thousands of faculty who are all doing research and who are all experts and who are all excellent mentors in a different way and can add a really different perspective for the startup community, or can sometimes be startup founders themselves. We have a ton of startups bubbling in the business school and in the engineering school, and we also have a law school that can help guide them through a lot of the spider webs as they start. So I think faculty is another really huge resource that we all provide, that's not necessarily the main focal point of everything we do, but it is definitely a really big part of it.
And
Facilitating cross connections.
Yeah. The value add we bring is we are the navigators. I mean, a lot of the work I've done the last 2 years is asset mapping and creating visual infographics on where different pockets of resources exist and for who and why and what's there when you get there. Because that wasn't described or even just inventoried in a way where people are like, if I need X, where do I go? That's always like the first stumbling block. So all of us help network the students to the faculty that have that research thing, that have that special expertise, or the industry leader or the startup CEO, that it's like we know how to steer them. We don't have to have the answers. Okay. So can I try my question one more time? What do we offer the startups? Why should they be interested in what we're doing, i.e. our speakers, our events, like those kinds of things they should take advantage of and don't know about?
I think Taylor's mention of the network effect is a big part of it.
It's like, and mentorship.
And just broadening that ecosystem and that whole community. Like we're a big part of it. And we're in Denver, we're sort of this, we're 6 miles from downtown or whatever it is, and we're definitely an ivory tower type of place. The campus is totally closed off. You don't feel welcome there unless you're invited, but we're inviting you. We want you to be on campus. We want you to know our students and know our faculty and find networks there that you didn't know you had before.
Yeah.
I mean, the student, we talk about, like, you hear the combination of students in the state, and that's the pipeline of folks that I think we often separate, like, oh, either you drop out of high school and you go do your startup. Higher ed, I want nothing to do with that. Like, don't worry about the degree. I've got this idea. I think those don't need to be separate. I mean, the students, some of the ones I've gotten to know really well are so well-rounded and represent such a perfect candidate for a company down the road. So I also think it's get tied into the pipeline of folks that are going to really make this state great.
So that network effect is also the magnetism we have to draw in the Steve Cases, who are speaking, nationwide on the third wave. And what other great speakers or people have you had come to campus?
Megan Smith,
Megan Smith.
Yeah.
former CTO of the U.S.
Awesome. You've done the UN, the flight
We've
to
partnered
Denver.
with the UN Foundation and really focused on the Sustainable Development Goals to bring that as this kind of framework. You guys don't know it's 17 goals to sort of create a path to prosperity for the world. A lot of it is focused on starting up and how entrepreneurs can help fulfill these 17 goals. So we're kind of using that as our umbrella rubric. But it's great because it's opened the university up to a lot of excellent conversations and people who really want to partner with us because we're looking at that framework.
So if you're a startup and you need talent, we can talk about that in a second. We have a lot of students ready to come work.
Not for free though.
That's where I was going to go next. Hold on. B, we have obviously intense expert knowledge on campus through our faculty that are doing amazing research. C, we have a lot of resources, i.e. at CU Boulder, we have labs and equipment that you won't find anywhere else, and you can come use or take advantage of. Our Office of Industry Collaboration and our Tech Transfer Office can get you connected to those kinds of like concrete materials. And then also just a lot of community events that will get you exposed to others that you didn't know were around. So I think those are just some highlights, and we could go on more. So let's come back to this talent part, though. So a lot of startups are like, can we get your students? We need to work on this project. Can they create us a prototype? Can they work on this as a project in their classes? How do you guys answer that question?
Nope.
Well,
I think I'm really good at saying no, but. I mean, or no and, right? There's we're improv rules, right? So and. Right. We say and. It's not yes and for me, it's no and.
No.
It's better than no but.
But it's true. So and then I'll shut up because I feel like I'm saying too much. But people come to us all the time and say, we have this great project. Do you just have a couple of students who can work on this? Or do you have a professor or faculty member who can work this into their class? And we're like, well, we're on week 4 of a 10-week quarter, and their curriculum is pretty set. And so, no, we're really unlikely to find a faculty member who's like, cool, I'm going to change everything to work on this one cool
So is
project.
there a right time of the semester to ask that question?
before it begins.
Before you need it. Ask before you need the help. And then I think that's just a truism across the board. Ask before you need help. But faculty love to plan. They have to plan. They have to have a lesson plan, and they have to know.
They love to plan, but they're really good at it.
Ken is a
job
faculty
requires
member.
them to plan, right? So you have to take students from point A at week 1 to in the quarter system, point B at week 10, and you have a way to get there. And throwing this really cool project in might sound like a fun idea, but it's not necessarily one that we can act on. So we try to do it in our program, but again, it's also really hard to just pull students in. And
We get, So we get a lot of, probably in the last 2 to 3 weeks, I've gotten probably 5 questions like that come in. But, our students are graduating and we're going into the summer, and it's kind of, it's not that it's ever wrong to ask for that, but it's to kind of also have that expectation that we are there in quarters, where in, regular semesters. So if you come to us in between one, we may not be able to do something until the next semester.
I was going to say right now is probably a great time to approach us because they're going to start planning for fall semester or even get it ready for spring. So there are sort of key moments to make those requests.
You have to think like 6 months out if you're trying
Yes, exactly.
so-
you have to think
really
6
do.
months out if you're trying to partner with universities.
We just instituted a process where 3 times a year we invite businesses in and startups in to present to our department chairs, curriculum coordinators, and deans, kind of here's the project I'm working on and here's what I need. And then we kind of take their 15 minutes, we ask them to leave the room, and then the faculty discuss, does this fit? Can I fit this into a class? Can my students work on this as a capstone? Or
Is it just business school, or is it cross?
it's just our business school right now.
So
But
drafting startup.
well, it is because part of it is we need our faculty to understand if they need to move 3 of the bureaucratic nonsense out of the way to make it work, it's not worth it, right? So I want to mention that. The other thing I want to mention when you ask us for labor, which is what this question often is. There's a fundamental question that we're asking everybody. Will they be learning because you're teaching them something while they're with you, or are you just need an extra set of hands? And most startups get a really quizzical look when you ask that question because they're like, well, they'll learn on the job. The answer then is you ask for more labor. Right? You just want more doers. And so they need to learn because that's fundamentally what we're doing at a university.
We get a lot of questions like free labor. We need interns. Okay, well, a lot of our students are right to have this mentality, and a lot of the faculty enforce this, that don't give your work away for free. None of us are going to give our work away for free. Why would we? That's how we make a living. We have value as to what we're providing, and students do as well. They might be young and not have a ton of experience, but they still have a lot of value to add, and they either need to get paid by really, really learning or being taught and having that mentorship relationship, or
just
by
paid.
actually getting paycheck.
Are you getting the Shark Tank version of the startup community is getting smarter? So they'll be like, there's no pay, but there might be equity.
Yeah. From our standpoint, we have over 700 companies come on site to recruit just interns every year. So students have usually multiple offers. It's really hard for them to pass up an opportunity to work with a big company and at good pay to work for a startup for nothing. It's a hard sell.
It can be. I think this kind of touches on storytelling as well. So it's important that if you're going to university and you are going to ask this question, that you have your story down. And story as in who you are, who your business is, and why this will impact the student or the university in a positive way. Well, everyone in a positive way, really. So it's just another plug for storytelling in general, which starts all the way from the very beginning, your elevator pitch. And if you come to us and you just kind of just ask this open question, you don't really engage with us, there's value in that.
I was like, I got to be careful. I'll get on a soapbox when it comes. But like within education, and I see this within like the ed tech and education at conferences and all kinds of weird coupling of strange competing forces, and it's really strange. Like, come with the intention of building a relationship. Don't come with the intention of pitching really or selling. Like, the story matters, but give them a story that's also authentic to like, no, I want to get to know what is happening here and how we can make a partnership work.
Yeah, engage.
Transactional.
Yeah.
Please don't. Yeah,
That's what I've been saying a lot lately.
and it's amazing how much like you hear that, but it happens so often. And then like the minute an educator deep in that world hears that, they're like, done. Go ahead, you can keep talking. But
Well, it has to be so clear, right? I agree. It has to be so clear, because what happens when you ask us is we have to retell that story to help you recruit students. So you have to help us recruit on your behalf.
So I'm going to turn it to Q&A. Just on that last note of like the network and the network effect, we talk amongst each other and we're meeting monthly. And so if we have a great experience or an interesting or an indifferent experience with any of you, and we get pinged a lot near and far, we do share that with each other. So the university community is a community. And I think that's just important to realize, because if you're pinging Werner and then Nina and then Ken and then me, we've all probably talked about what happened. And it's just good to understand, like, it's a small community and we all want to work together and share, and we have a lot to offer. And so we want to do it together and help you. Any other thoughts? And then we'll open for questions. Okay, bring it on.
All right, so along the lines of the previous question about asking for labor from universities, do your considerations also take into account like the different types of labor? Because like, for example, I'm thinking about design, which is a field where like, if a company is hiring, they want to be able to see like a portfolio, and they can see like very clearly what someone's done. Like, I've personally worked with 2 students before who were just doing it for a portfolio gig. Yeah. Whereas like I understand that maybe like engineering, where you're doing like hundreds of hours of work building a product, that's a little different. So do those sorts of considerations come into play? Or?
There are other units sometimes on campus besides us that would work in that space. So I'm thinking that our Career and Professional Development Center, they actually are the ones that would keep track of those opportunities for career building.
And I think it depends on our students. We have some really savvy, our CMCI is our College of Media Studies, and those students are freelancing, and they're getting paid hourly, and they're starting startups where they're hiring other students to be part of their freelance community. So they're getting on to what you guys need. Did you want to add?
Yeah, so we have something similar at CU Denver where you could take it to 2 different levels. So we have, the students who are kind of just doing this freelance, and they're in a program called CAM Agency. So it's arts and media, so photographers, videography, even the script writing. So CAM Agency is really it's very affordable. So you still have to pay for it, but you could go to CAM Productions, which is also at CU Denver, but you're talking about high quality level, up there productions. You're going to be paying $40,000, $50,000. But if you go to CAM Agency and you work with those students, you're paying maybe $3,000 or $4,000. So there's a lot of different value, and I know that we're saying they're not going to do it for free, but there are students that will work for a portfolio. We have a student consulting group, and so they do real-world projects. So we all have something similar to that. So there are ways, but we have to be able to understand the value and the benefit for everyone involved.
Is there a question back there?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, it was interesting that last discussion that was ongoing there, because I kind of heard a debate going on between kind of a traditional academic model and then taking on and incorporating projects into the curriculum. So maybe each of you can talk a little about where you at with integrating into the curriculum itself, into the class structure itself, the curriculum, experiential project-based learning. Because if you look at the skill set that industry is really seeking and startups are seeking, by and large, they're seeking students who have that experience by the time they graduate. And I know there is that debate going on versus, here's the traditional model, academic model versus this project-based learning model. So I didn't really hear much about that. So maybe you can each talk about where you're at your schools with integrating those project-based learning models into the curriculum.
Yeah, I can touch on it really quickly. And then.
Me too, yeah.
So at University of Denver, we, the engineering school, there's a senior design project is a requirement for all undergraduate engineers. So there is definitely project-based learning. It's right now only in their 4th year. Our dean of our School of Engineering is trying very hard. There's so many rules on how to be an accredited engineering school. You can't change it too much, but he really wants project-based learning to be part of, from when you step foot on campus freshman year, that you have project-based learning all the way through your senior design project. We've got human-centered design courses. We really focus on experiential learning. I think I may have been too flippant in saying that we just say no. We don't. We want to work it in, but it can't just be a one-off project that you need help right this second. We can't work that in. We have a whole Center for Community-Based Learning. So we're really trying to build all that experiential learning. We also have a new Chief Innovation Officer at the university who's really focused on curriculum innovation and trying to build that experiential piece into all parts of the university.
So we focus heavily on experiential. So we bring in, just from our advisor networks and our mentor networks and friends of the center over the years, it becomes part of the projects. So our marketing strategy class is actually doing strategy projects for companies that have a topic they want to do. We have our business plan class has actually done projects for Colorado Symphony and trying to look at new outlets and new ways for them to make money, and aside from just doing shows and the music. Or, we bring in, and I think this is the case for everyone, we all bring in a lot of adjuncts. So our faculty teach as well as our instructors, and adjuncts are those industry leaders that we're bringing in. So in some of our classes are even co-taught by a faculty member and by an industry leader. So I just want to touch on something Nina said, the word accreditation, which...
It's a big word.
It's a big word, and it is very important, and it is very, very important to universities that are accredited, that they stay accredited, but there are certain requirements that fall in that process that are very traditional. So,
as we might want to change them, we can't.
Yeah, and there are things we can change. Yeah. We have in our business plan class this year, one of the days they were told, they were randomly paired up in groups. And they were told, we're lucky, we're right in the middle of downtown, we're right by Larimer Square. All right, go out on 16th Street Mall. So you have 15 minutes to kind of create a business idea. Go out on the 16th Street Mall and do your market research and find out if this is going to work. And then they came back, they reported on their results, and then they pitched it based on all their conversations. And our adjunct, not our faculty member, I think that's important to say, our adjunct paid the winning team $50. But things like that do get incorporated into a curriculum a lot. I think we're just not telling those stories as much.
Well, and I'll just add that the purpose of my innovation center is to break business education at our university. I think it's broken. I go out and pitch my center all the time, and the first 2 lines are, have you ever been so in love with something and so deeply frustrated by it? Higher education is broken, right? I mean, that's the intro. And how do we fix it? So as one of the few faculty member on the panel, I will share with you that I think sometimes our curriculum is old and outdated and not moving fast enough for what's needed. One of the opportunities we do have with experiential learning is to build out the co-curricular space, right? And there's 3 curricula that you always encounter: the curriculum, the co-curriculum, and the extracurriculum. The extracurriculum involves drugs and booze, and we don't want to touch that with a pole. The curriculum's kind of static, especially we're up for accreditation in October. The co-curriculum is an opportunity that is ripe for you all coming in and saying, listen, when we hire folks from your institution, we need this. But I have to tell you, if you rely on faculty at an institution or staff of an institution to come up with what you need, you're going to be waiting a long time. Come help, come
That's
push.
why we're at Startup Week.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was spoken like a true iconoclastic Jesuit. In terms of interacting with your university, can you speak to an intention to teach and promote social justice, change, community advocacy, not just the spirit of entrepreneurism?
Yeah,
Are there
so
programs that are focused towards that?
we all have a color, right? I mean, and I think, Nina, I'm thinking of the programming that you do. We have a business school, and the mission of our Jesuit university is to help men and women become in service of others. The vision of our business school is to help business become stewards of society with the goal of improving the quality of life on earth.
We're a private school for the public good.
And so we are based all in those things. And so if I were to tell you my definition of innovation as we use it to choose our events, they have to develop 3 kinds of thinking that you all should recognize and need: critical, creative, and systems thinking. Almost every one of our institutions has critical thinking as an outcome and ignores systems and creative thinking. So putting that in there, but then 4 characteristics of leadership: self-awareness, ingenuity, love, and heroism. And that's how we choose our programs.
I'd say from our side, so we have a startup weekend actually happening at DU this weekend. All are welcome. But the focus is businesses for good, is creating businesses for good. And as I mentioned, we do a lot of programming around the Sustainable Development Goals and trying to tie that sort of triple bottom line idea into business plans. One thing we've realized with students is I think we will often separate entrepreneurs from social entrepreneurs. Students don't see a difference. They don't see them as they're starting a company, and of course it's going to be solving a social problem. Like, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We see that in almost every one of our companies. So having programming around that, or providing resources to connect students to recognize that there are others who are also trying to solve this problem. This is how we can network you and connect you to all of those. So we see that the global goals are sustainable development.
I do
We're
have a
running
little...
short on time.
Just
So,
one-
we're going to have Werner, and then any closing comments, we're going to let people go.
One last thing. I think the other aspect is that there's a real focus now on human-centered engineering. And I think all of us have programs in that. We created a brand new department, which is engineering, design, and society. So that really goes that extra level of understanding the social impact of engineering and going towards sustainability and understanding what you create actually makes a difference in the world.
So any final words you want to leave the startup community with before you leave today?
Come to Startup Weekend this weekend.
This weekend?
It's this weekend. It's at DU starts on Friday afternoon at 4.
How would you find it if you wanted to? How would you find it, Nina?
It is, you could go to our website, which is projectexcite.org. You could just look up Techstars Startup Weekend, and it's an Eventbrite page. It's a Techstars program. Actually, it's supposed to be in the Boulder Startup Week newsletter as well today, but...
I just want to say, help us help you. Please talk to us. We take a lot of coffee meetings, phone meetings, anything you need. Our whole role is to learn what are the opportunities, what is the current community looking for. So we're really amenable to meeting with all of you. And I just want to say thank you for your time and being interested in this topic. It's really nice to have a great audience. So thank you all.